Why don't we go next to Tamisha from New York City? Tamisha, it's been a while. What's going on?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hi. I just want to tell you first that I have all three of your books.
Oh, thank you.
I brought them into my classroom, and the kids are really into it.
That's amazing.
They like your scientist one the best so far.
Very nice. I appreciate that. The scientist one is sort of like it's a cult classic, I would say.
Is it?
Yeah, I don't know among which cult, but
I like the voting one the best.
cool. I appreciate that.
But yeah, that my students know that I listen to you. They don't. I talk to about you generally because I don't want to give them too much information about my political views.
Of course.
But but they're like they so they mentioned David's book. We have to read it.
That's amazing. I love that.
But I just wanted to ask you also quickly.
Sure.
I don't know if this is. I can't remember specifically, but you said that you did have some criticisms about DEI,
Mm-hmm.
and I just wanted to get your what your criticisms were because I find that especially on Twitter, I'm on Twitter a lot. That
Yeah.
the criticisms that the right wing have on DEI is very disgusting and racist to me.
Oh, yeah. No, listen, here's my view on this, Tamisha. I think that DEI, meaning diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, have a completely logical, reasonable, and great reason for existing in general, which is we are perceiving inequalities. We want to correct them. We want to generate equality of opportunity. We want to right historical wrongs. We see that there are still problems in society that we want to fix. That's all great. What I mean by criticisms is when there are examples of things gone too far, when certain groups end up silenced under the name of DEI, like for example, the argument that, or under wokeness or intersectionality, like for example, the argument that Jewish women aren't intersectional and discriminated enough against enough to qualify to be in the leadership of the Women's March. That's a specific example of you've perverted the stated objectives of why you exist. Or so my point is not I have general criticisms. It's sometimes any movement that is rooted in logical and sensible objectives gets taken too far by the extremists, and we should just be critical of that. We shouldn't do the thing where we are presented with some example and we defend it when it doesn't deserve defending. We should just say when these examples are presented, we should go, oh, that sounds crazy. Yeah, no, that's not. When I say I support diversity, equity, and inclusion as principles, I don't support that specific thing or that specific thing. Don't get into the game of defending the indefensible.
Yes, yeah, I feel the same way because like I'll give pushback about when people like there's this guy I listen to, Hawk Newsome. He kind of leads the black he doesn't call it Black Lives Matter anymore, but
Hmm.
he kind of leads the way in New York and he does a lot of he doesn't really like cops and he stands up for anti-blackness, I guess you would call
Uh-huh.
it. But he also goes a little too far where he's like all white people are racist and I don't believe in those extremes. I don't believe that
Yeah, no,
you
I
should
agree with
use
you there.
discrimination to fight discrimination. I'm against that type of stuff.
The police
Those
thing
are
is
like
an
what
interesting one where
some of the
it's like
criticisms I have.
the police thing is interesting. It's like we need police reform. I've outlined 10 to 12 different ways in which I would reform and improve policing. If you just ask most people if you could get rid of the police in your city right now and have no police, would you do it? Almost everyone says no. And so at its core, the blanket defund the police thing, I think went too far. It's we need to reform. We have problems. We need to talk about qualified immunity, all these different things. Defund and get rid of the police. No, almost nobody actually wants that. And Democrats don't want that. Republicans don't want it. So that would be an example where I say there's a great instinct here. Aspects of policing aren't working. There's much to fix, but let's not go too far. And we just should be clear about it. That's my view.
Yes, I feel the same way. Like you shouldn't say every cop is bad, the whole system is bad. Are there problems in the system? Does it need to be fixed? Does it need to be worked on, revamped? Yes, but the just to say that it's a bad system and needs to be done away with altogether is not the answer either. Like I agree on that term. But back to DEI for a second, I was just basically seeing on social media. I know that's not representative of the world,
Yeah.
but or the country, but they say things like DEI is hiring people that are not qualified in the name of diversity, and I don't feel like that's true. I feel like the people that they like, Katanji Brown Jackson is qualified, and she was picked to be the Supreme Court judge, but they try to downplay it and make it seem like if it's a black person or a woman in these positions, they're automatically not qualified because they were
Here's
just
the
hired
thing with
because of
that.
DEI. Huh?
If you can bring me an example of someone who's not qualified who's been hired, let me evaluate it. And then if that's what happened, I'll criticize it. When it comes to Judge Jackson, we have a country of 330 million people. There are what? Thousands at least people in the country who would be qualified to be Supreme Court justice. So among the pool of qualified people, we can then say, hey, there's never been a black woman on the Supreme Court, and that would be meaningful in its own way. From those who are qualified, is there a black woman that might also be meaningful in her role on the court? You're not picking unqualified people. You're saying we have so many qualified people in a country this big that we have the richness where we can do that.
Yes, and I feel like that the right portrays it as in hiring people based on diversity, they're automatically hiring unqualified people.
Right. Now, it may be taking place, and if it is, I'll criticize it. But the case with Judge Jackson certainly is not an example. Tamisha, I got to run. I appreciate the call.
Thank you.
All right, Tamisha from New York City. Always great to hear from her. Let's take a break. We'll take more calls again, just not today.